The Warthog chili is the hottest chili I have ever eaten, and today we're going to be making a hot sauce with it. I'm not looking forward to this one. I started this process back in October last year, so let's take a quick look back then when we actually got this fermentation started.
So we're down to the last tray of these Warthogs, and what I'm doing here is I'm processing them. We've processed 3 trays already. I am removing the seeds. Now that's for 2 reasons. One, I am saving the seeds from the ones that I've isolated. So we have another bag of these sitting inside my dehydrator right now, getting ready for you guys to buy so you can grow them yourselves. And the other reason is you don't really want seeds inside your sauce. Some sauces actually, it just goes with it. Like my peri-peri sauces, I sometimes leave some seeds in there. But typically you don't want seeds inside your sauce. If you want to remove the seeds, easy, just pull this open. And this bucket is, well, all my lovely chilies. It's getting full. So I break up the skin around the seeds. So different chilies are going to work a bit differently. With super hots, well, this specific super hot, it works out quite well this way. But what's fascinating to me is the specific cultivar of the Warthog, every single one of them, or nearly every single one of them, has an inner chili. It's not something you typically, I mean, you do see it sometimes on some pods, but it's occasional. So I'm going to try another one. Obviously, I haven't opened this up, so I don't know. But yep, it's got exactly the same thing. Hopefully you can see it. But yeah, there's another little chili inside it. Very, very strange. And it's like a full-on chili. There's a little tail on it. And yeah, and then a whole other chili going on in there. Very weird. Let's do one more. So you can see here, beautiful pod. Get rid of the green. Peel it open. There's another one. Very pronounced. Check that out. Isn't that weird? Anyway, we'll see if that continues. Let me know if you have bought seeds from me. Let me know later in the season if you've got the same quality in yours, because yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Just bear in mind, this is a very unstable variety, as is evident by the fact that nearly every plant I grew from those seeds came out a little bit different. And that was right from the early days, from seedling stage. I could see the leaves were different, the colors were different. You can watch some of my videos from 2025 grow season, and you can see just, it was interesting. To the extreme side of it, I had some yellow pods coming through, and as far as I know, the Warthog is not a yellow chili, but I think a lot of other people had the same thing.
This is a fairly simple process at this point. All we need to do is weigh our ingredients. In this case, we just got our lovely chilies. We're going to weigh those and then work out how much salt we need to add. We're going to end up probably filling this here, which is it's pretty small, about a 5-liter bucket. Obviously, this is going to be blended down, so it's going to come up to less, because if we have a look here, that's a full 10-liter bucket. But once it's mashed down, it's going to fit nicely into the 5-liter bucket. Now, mash fermentation just typically works better. You got a good mass of chilies in there and sugars. It's going to create a nice layer of CO2 at the top, and it's going to kick off the fermentation a lot quicker than if you're doing a brine fermentation. Brine fermentation is pretty simple, but you do have challenges with keeping things below the surface. I just prefer not to do it that way. Now, there's another method as well that I've shown you on my channel, which is using a vacuum seal method. This is pretty much as foolproof as it gets. The problem is you can go through quite a bit of waste of the bags that you use. Also, it just isn't really practical for larger batches of chili fermentation. So we'll be doing it in a bucket as a mash. Now, first things first, we need to weigh this so we can work out how much salt we're going to add. How much have we got here? 3.844 kilograms of very spicy chilies. It's actually got a nice aroma. It's got a lot of heat. I can smell that heat from here. Not your typical floral sort of chinene smell. So I'm very interested to see how this is going to end up. I know it's going to be hot, but hopefully it's also going to be tasty. Okay, so 3.84, and we're also going to be adding in half a liter of water just to help this blend together. With these sort of chilies, super hot chilies, capsicum chinense, they're relatively dry in comparison to things like jalapeno or cayenne, that sort of thing. So you do need to add a little bit of water to blend this up. Don't forget, you need to weigh the water or take into account the water you're adding when you do your salt calculation. So in this instance, 3.844, we're going to add around about half a liter of water. So we're talking about 4.3 kilograms. On my website, I have a calculator to help you out with this calculation. This just makes it a lot easier. So we're going to put in 4.3 kilograms. And that tells us with a 3%, because I'm going to go with 3% here. Typically, you want to do between 2.5 and 3%. You can go higher. You can go up to even 8%. I wouldn't recommend that high. The maximum I would go practically would be about 5%, and you won't have any problems. The only challenge you have is when you come to making the sauce, it gives you less options if you want to make it less salty. So just take that into account, because you can't take salt out once you've added it. So we're going to go with 3% because this is just perfect for what I'm going to do here and what I've got planned for the sauce. And that brings us to 133 grams of salt. I'm going to be using some 100% sea salt. You can go with pretty much most salts. I would recommend kosher salt, sea salt, even Himalayan rock salt. Just table salt, not really recommended. I'll give you a little tip here as well when we do add the salt. So there we go. Perfect amount of salt. It looks like quite a lot, but trust me, I need it. If I do it in the Vitamix, it's going to blend it too fine. I really don't like blending it too fine. I want it to be a little bit chunky. Oh, this machine is a beast. I think I did pickled jalapenos with this because obviously it's a blender, but it also has an attachment to chop up your vegetables, and it does fantastically for that. So if you're making cowboy candy, which again, I've got a video link down below to show you how to do that, which is amazing use of your jalapenos. This thing works wonders. You can get through so many chilies so quickly. Let's figure this out. I have given this a good clean. Make sure that anything that is touching the mash has been sterilized and sanitized effectively. I have got, for those of you that are going to comment this later, I have got a big extractor fan. It's sitting right over there. Turning it on, however, it makes a hell of a noise and not great for this, but I will be switching on as soon as we finish filming. Yeah, this would, I mean, they've pretty much filled that up to the top. Loads in here. Imagine doing that when you only can work with like 1.7 liters at a time. A bit of a pain. We're going to add a little bit of the salt. It's not important because we're going to be mixing this all up anyway, so that's not too much of an issue. And we're going to add some water. Not a lot, just to help it start blending down. Excuse the noise. Actually, it's not that loud, to be honest. I expect it to be louder. It's doing a good job. I always do that. I stick my face in it and then wonder why I go into a coughing fit. Really happy with the performance of this machine. It's made a perfect mash. Hopefully it doesn't make a complete mess, but you can see where it is. It's about halfway, and that looks good. and it doesn't aerate everything. So it's not actually as bad as when I blend it. When you blend your chilies, it aerates a lot of it. So when you do open it up, sometimes you might have seen it on my videos, it looks a little bit like smoke rising. It's just the aeration of all the painful stuff. So it looks amazing. And no mess, so this wasn't such a bad idea at the end of the day. Anyway, next lot. A perfect amount of mash in here. Maybe a little bit higher would have been nice, but honestly, that gap at the top, that's what we're looking for. We don't want a lot of a gap there. It's perfect. I've already drilled this hole, so just used a stepper bit like this. And what size is that? I think it's 14 millimeters. I usually use like a silicone grommet, which is it's one that you kind of have to really wangle in there. It fits on both sides of this, but I've switched over to these. I'm giving these a try. It works really well. This goes in here so much easier, honestly, than the silicone ones I was using. I have given this a spray, but obviously I'm touching places. So this here is just Star San. It's a no rinse acid sanitizer. Active ingredient, phosphoric acid, because I know I'll get questions about it. Yeah, that's good. And then I'm going to spray on here. Anything that's going to come into contact with this, you want to make sure has been sanitized. So everything has been sterilized beforehand, but just before you use it, you want to give it a quick sanitization, just so that everything is set up for the best success for your fermentation. So why did we keep quite a bit of salt? Because there's quite a bit in here. I'd say probably about a quarter of the salt I didn't add in to the fermentation. Now, what I did want to do before we do this, because we have put differing amounts of salt, you want to give it a little bit of a mix. That's not too essential because things are going to move around in here anyway. That's part of the whole fermentation process. Things will be bubbling up and moving through here, and all the liquid will be moving around. So that's fine. Let's get that to settle. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm adding salt to the top. So the reason for this, I could have added it all while I was blending it up, and that's perfectly fine. But what I found is if you take some of the salt, you leave some of the salt behind, and it's not extra salt, it's the same amount that I'd measured out before. So it's still 3% salt in here. But what I'm doing here is you're basically creating a bit of a layer. So I start off on the edges, because that's typically where you see kahm yeast start up, is on the edges. So if I just get that going there, and then start coming towards the middle, just get that spread all along the top. What this is doing is it's creating a nice layer of salt to keep things that are underneath it in the best condition possible, to stop things like kahm yeast and other pathogens that you don't want in there. You're trying to encourage lactobacillus, the bacteria lactobacillus, you're trying to encourage that to populate in this here. So now we do not stir this again. Hopefully you can see that. I don't want to move it too much. But we've created like a bit of a layer of salt on top. This here is going to start moving around. Like I said before, I don't want to have this open for too long. I'm going to give it another spray. Any excess you can rinse off, but it's honestly not too much of an issue. Let's get that to come through. There we go. I don't want that going too far in, because this is going to shift up a bit. And you don't want that getting pushed up through the airlock. So you want that air gap. You want that to be above the mash. So it's going to create a layer. That salt is going to create a layer that is going to help this to just, in the next 2 or 3 days, which is the prime time for getting the lactobacillus to populate within the system. And that lactobacillus, once it reproduces, it's going to start creating lactic acid. It's also going to start creating some CO2. It's going to move that all through the system, and you'll see the stuff start to churn. When that happens, the salt that's on top is going to move down. and it'll all mix up anyway when we do the blending, so it's really not an issue. But this really does help to stop with the kahm yeast and all the other stuff that could go wrong with this. Obviously, the big thing you want to do here is make sure you use fresh chilies, ripe chilies. These here, they are very, very ripe, perfectly ripe for this. So there's going to be enough sugars in there for the lactobacillus to do their job. Enough to cover the bottom. There we go. So enough to pretty much, that's probably a little bit too much, but that's not the end of the world. But essentially, there's 3 little balls over here. You want them to be in the middle of the second ball, so in the middle of this. But that'll be fine. And remember, it does evaporate, so if you're having a very long-term fermentation, just make sure you are topping it up. Just check on it every couple of months. Make sure that there's enough air in there. Okay, well, there we go. And you want to test it to make sure that it is properly sealed. So if you just push the top and it maintains, so it doesn't get back to equilibrium, then you know that it's properly sealed. Right now I can see it's maintaining a little bit of positive pressure, so that's perfectly fine. Now, this part is a little bit, it really depends on your situation. I have a fermenting fridge that I created, the Fermentator. I'll leave a link down below. You can see how I built it. And you can build your very own as well. That maintains a constant temperature. Now, this here, I'll go in at a bit of a higher temperature to start with, but I'll settle back down to around 20 degrees Celsius, which is 68 Fahrenheit. But I'll start it off at about 21, 22 degrees Celsius, just for the first couple of days. And what that does is it helps the lactobacillus to start multiplying a little bit quicker. Once it has multiplied, then yeah, you want to bring it back down to like 20 degrees Celsius or even 19 degrees Celsius. I wouldn't go much below that. You definitely don't want to go much above 22 or 23 degrees Celsius because you can create some off flavors. Now, you may argue that that doesn't really matter when you have something as hot as this, but trust me, it makes a big difference. So yeah, if you can handle around about 20 degrees Celsius, which most homes, that's why it's called room temperature, it's around 20 degrees Celsius, you'd be perfectly fine. So find somewhere in your house that maintains a kind of a constant temperature, somewhere where it's cool, out of the light, and let it ferment there. It's time for us to check how we actually did. This is always the scary part, checking in on our fermentation, because have we wasted 9 months? Is this going to be ruined? I have a good feeling though. So let's open this up. I am wearing gloves because I am honestly scared of this one. And I don't want to get Warthog all over my fingers. That looks absolutely perfect. Smells strong, but looks great. Healthy, there's no growth on top. There's no black or green mold sitting on top there. If there was, then this would be scrapped. A little bit of kahm yeast I could see, but very minimal. So yeah, really pleased with that. We are going to keep this sauce incredibly simple. The fact of the matter is, it's just an incredibly hot sauce. If you can't handle that heat level, then yeah, it's one of those that you can put up on the shelf and pull out every now and then just to test your brother-in-law or something like that, like I sometimes do. But for those that actually have a very high heat tolerance and they want to see what the Warthog is going to taste like, that's what this is about. But at the end of the day, I don't want this to just be a plain old chili. It needs to have some other flavors and more importantly, the smells. I want, when you open that bottle, to smell that and not just smell the chili, smell something else interesting. So that's why I've chosen the ingredient that I have. And it's literally just one ingredient that really is going to make that difference. And that is green cardamom. So we have our beautiful Warthog mash. We've got green cardamom. One of my favorite things to add to a super hot sauce because it is just so aromatic. It is beautiful and it's intense. It can cut through that heat. And you really need that with some of these hotter sauces. The last ingredient we're going to be adding is some white wine vinegar, a good quality white wine vinegar. And the reason for that, we need to water this down a little bit, purely because it won't get out the bottle otherwise. It's really, really thick. So I'm going to be adding some of that. But with the quality of the white wine vinegar that I use, it doesn't really cut through like that in terms of things like distilled white vinegar, which does have a very sharp and harsh taste. So that's it. We've got 3 ingredients. We're not cooking this. If you are going to be using cardamom, I would suggest not heating it up too much. So if you are going to be cooking your sauce, if you're making one and you're using cardamom, don't heat it up too much. Rather add it after you've finished cooking your sauce. And that's because it ruins some of the aromatics. It'll actually dull some of the taste that you get from this. I have done this in the past. I have toasted, and yeah, I just prefer it now just plain raw like that, and it's just so much more flavor coming through. I will need to put on the extractor fan. Normally I don't put it on when I am doing a sauce just because the sound, but I'm not risking it today. And also it's quite warm. I'm actually sweating. We are still going through a bit of a heat wave at the moment. So this might be a little bit overkill. I want to test out a new gadget that I've bought to help with some of my bigger batches. This is obviously not a very big batch of sauce. You know, I'm normally making around 50, 60 liters at a time at least. And to do that, I am using my Vitamix because it blends like nothing else, and you get a lovely fine sauce at the end of it, and you don't have to do too much filtering out. Problem is, that's a lot of blending to do when you have a large batch of sauce. With this here, I'll probably be just fine. So what I did is I went and got a massive stick blender. That is the Robot Coupe, or Robo Coupe. This is an absolute beast, and it's meant to be the best for this sort of thing. It's not going to blend as smooth as my Vitamix will, but with this sort of sauce, I don't think that matters too much. I don't mind it being a little bit chunky, a little bit of bits and pieces in there. And really, if I want to, I can run it through a food mill and make it even smoother, but I don't think I need to for this one. So we're going to be testing it out. We'll have to be putting it in a pot, I guess, which I have cleaned. I think that's big enough. Do I need a bigger pot? That should be all right. It's actually a fairly pleasant smell, which surprises me because it is a stupidly hot chili, but I mean, part of that is the fermentation. I mean, it's sharp. It's getting in the back of my nose there. It's going to be interesting when I have to taste it later. But, yeah. So we're going to blend this first like this, and then I will blend in the other ingredients. Well, I am pretty pleased with this. It's, again, not as smooth as I can get with the Vitamix, but it's done a pretty damn good job. The color is beautiful, by the way. Amazing. You can see inside there. It's looking good. And to let you know, this is going to be available in the store. It's going to be limited batches, 50 milliliter bottles. So we'll get that in the store as soon as this video goes out. And you can see what you think of the Warthog. Okay, enough stalling. I'm going to have to taste this. Oh boy. Gives me a little bit of PTSD after the tasting of the whole thing on a live stream. It's the first time I've been that close to reaching panic levels because it just did not want to come down. I'm not going to take too much. There's no need. Got nothing to prove. I really don't want to do this. Here we go. Before the burn starts coming in, because it's a slow burn, flavors are good up front. Yeah, the heat level has certainly come down a little bit. I'm managing okay. Obviously, I only had a little bit of it. Quite a bit of a burn on the lips, which is not generally what I get with super hots. That actually is pretty darn tasty. Interested to hear what you guys have to say. This is certainly hotter than the last dab that I had. I think I reviewed that a little while back. I definitely feel that it's hotter than that. It's still burning on the lips. It's not absolutely wrecking me, which I'm very pleased about. But the flavor, I think, is what shines here. Really nice. The chili itself has a fantastic flavor. So, yeah, it'll be available in the store as soon as this video is out. You can go see if you'd like to try a bottle of it. Thanks so much for watching. Until the next video, stay spicy.